If you are trying to achieve healthy weight loss, I need you to understand that there's three main things that are going to contribute to you doing that successfully. We're going to talk about that in today's video. Hello, Wellness Warriors. Welcome to Mind Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet. I'm Violet. The reason that I make these videos is to help everyone to understand that when your mental health and physical health are working well together, that's how we really achieve that sense of well-being. If this is something that you're working on, subscribe because I make new videos every week. So the first thing that you're going to work on, if you really want to be healthy in your weight loss process, is being honest with yourself. That seems like such a basic thing that we think we're doing all the time, but the truth is that we're not. And how can I say that? Quite simply, do you pay attention to every single thing you put in your mouth? And if you're tracking, do you track every single thing you eat? And I'm not just talking about meals now. I'm talking about you tasted some of your kids' food that really you're not eating, or you've taken a bite off your husband's cookie, or like everything that you eat, are you tracking it? While you're cooking a meal, are you tasting all this stuff throughout the whole time you're cooking the meal? One of the things that I see causes so many people to not achieve the goal that they're trying to achieve is that they're not tracking everything and not purposefully leaving things off. I'm talking about not tracking everything, believing that one strawberry isn't a big deal, believing that 3 French fries is not a big deal. We've already done a video showing that 4 typical French fries is a gram of carbs. The other thing we need to be honest with ourselves about is if we overeat carbohydrates, we will gain or maintain our weight. Again, a lot of us are tracking our meals. A lot of us are doing our best to pay attention to the food that's coming in. But then we will tell ourselves a story that this one time that I have a dessert doesn't matter. That this one time that I drank regular soda doesn't matter. The truth is, when we are cleaning up our body is still very sensitive to the damage that we were living a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a month ago. So I'm going to put it to you like this. When my body is healing from a cut, but it's not completely healed, what happens if somehow I get an abrasion across that cut? The cut reopens because it wasn't fully healed. I'm sure because I've lived this, and I know there are those of you out there who have lived this too, where you have a cut and it just won't heal because every time you hit it on something, you scrape it on your clothes, like somehow this cut is in a position where it just keeps getting reopened and reopened. And eventually, for some of us, we end up having to take medication now because we've infected the cut. Understand that whether we're talking about external skin or internal problems, if you keep damaging over and over part of your body, eventually the damage will not be easily repaired. So for those of you who understand that carbohydrates are a toxin, then continually reintroducing that toxin actually is harming you much more than you understand. So let's be honest with ourselves and understand that, yes, if I reintroduce sugar to my diet, even if it's just that one time, my body is going to react to it. I will gain or I will stay put. And it will affect me more than just that one day that I ate it. Yes, it will. If I kick myself out of the ketogenic state, not only is my body having to do repairs based on what I've eaten, but also it takes time for my body to get back into ketosis. All of that matters. And it's not just carbs. I want you also to expect to gain or maintain if you overeat protein and fat. There is a misconception that fat is unlimited when you're doing a ketogenic lifestyle. This is not reality. If I overeat anything, then my body will store. Now, overeating carbohydrates is toxic. Overeating protein and fat is not necessarily toxic. You have to be really extreme to get those things to toxic levels, but it still will block your weight loss process. So when I see people making recipes and they're adding extra fat to the situation, even though they're saying they're on a weight loss trajectory, those two ideas don't match. And because those two ideas don't match, you will block your weight loss process. So the second thing that I want you to do is be realistic in your weight loss expectations. I often see people talking about this idea that somehow there's this ability to pause their weight loss, believing that if I eat normally for just a week or just 3 weeks or just a month because it's really crazy at work, or well, the holidays are here, or I have this huge renovation in my home to do, or my parents are sick, or like, so I give myself this reason that says because something huge is happening in my life, I could just pause my weight loss behavior. So now I'm talking about my healthy eating, and I can go back to eating normally and everything's going to stay the same. There's multiple problems here, but the thing that I want to point to you is if I reintroduce a toxin, as I said in the earlier statement, right? But here's the other thing I've seen over and over again, that when you go back to eating a standard diet, whatever your standard diet was before you started to do a healthy ketogenic lifestyle, not only do you put on the weight, you put the weight on faster than you put it on the first time. Now, my guess, just looking at it from a biology point of view, when I was putting on weight the first time, I had to grow those fat cells. So my body had to make new fat cells and then fill those fat cells and make new fat cells and fill those fat cells every time it needed to add more weight to me. Versus once I've lost weight, the fat cells are still there. They're just shrunk, they're small. So when I go back to my normal way of eating, guess what? I've got all that lovely space to fill up quickly because my body doesn't have to make new fat cells. Please do not believe that because life is happening, that's a reason that you don't have to pay attention to the food you're eating. Pay attention to the food you're eating, and you will maintain your situation. And also, if you're in a weight loss trajectory, you'll continue to lose. So, the other mistake that I see people making, because they know how to do keto and they know that they can jump right back into keto and do it efficiently and correctly, then gaining weight is seen as not a big deal because, well, I can just lose it again. Understand that, number one, that's yo-yo dieting. Number two, as I just said earlier, you can put that weight on much faster and even understand that your body will still make more fat cells if it needs to. So you end up weighing oftentimes more when you do that because your body is trying to keep you healthy. That sugar floating around in your body is not healthy. And especially if I've just cleaned up, your body's even more rallying against this toxic substance. You will put on weight, you'll put it on quickly, and you will likely go over. We are now playing that yo-yo dieting game that is so detrimental to our health. Knowing how to do keto is not a reason to not fare junk food. But I see this as something that people talk about all the time. Oh, you can have a cheat day. It's no big deal. You just jump back on keto afterwards. Knowing how to do keto doesn't stop toxic food from being toxic. It doesn't stop toxic food from damaging your internals until your body gets a chance to clean it up. Again, if I keep reopening the same cut, how long until that cut becomes a real problem for me? When I'm trying to be realistic with myself, I actually need to understand that processes like autophagy and apoptosis are there to keep my body healthy. They're there to keep my body strong, but they're not a replacement for eating properly. They're not a replacement for me having patience. So another issue that I see is that people will think that because autophagy and apoptosis are healthy for the body, that these processes will kick in really fast and help them to sculpt the body that they want, ridding them of fat and ridding them of excess skin and things like this. It took years for most of us to become 50, 70, 80 pounds, 100 pounds overweight. Myself, I lost 70 pounds. The idea that in less than years, my body will get rid of the excess skin, I think that's an unrealistic idea. We need to understand that our body is more interested in our good health than us being skinny or thin or model shaped. And when we stop and understand that piece of information, all of a sudden it becomes very apparent why fasting for weight loss, yes, it does give us somewhat of an outcome, but most people have a very difficult time managing that long term if you are still eating high amounts of carbohydrates when you go back to your non-fasting days. And just keeping it in mind too that if I fast for weight loss with this idea that eating those carbohydrates is not affecting me internally, I'm losing the bigger point. Of course, those carbohydrates are affecting me internally. The amount of weight that you want to eventually finish at is also a place where we need to be realistic with ourselves. So if no matter what I do, if I want to be 100 pounds, my body's going to fight me on that tooth and nail, right? I am too tall to be 100 pounds. Now, are there some women who are 100 pounds and they're fine? Absolutely. It's not Violet. And I think one of the things I try to help people to understand is that how you feel is so much more important than the number you finish at. If your joints are feeling good, which was my number one goal, if you've got energy, if you've got mental clarity, if everything is working well, the weight that you end up at is so much less important than that you are feeling amazing now. Keep in mind, most of us are overweight and feeling horrible. Most of us are overweight and we're having joint issues like I was. Maybe you have fatigue. Maybe you have mental clarity issues. Maybe you have no flexibility and your body just hurts all the time. Maybe there's so many problems with the inflammation that we live. Maybe you have metabolic disease already and you're living diabetes, heart disease, or other things, PCOS, other internal issues. Solving those issues is so much more important than whatever weight you end up at. And it's really amazing to me that we so focus on being thin than focus on being healthy. In order to be realistic in our weight loss, we also need to understand the difference in what actually affects our weight loss. Calories in, calories out, and exercise do not help us to maintain or lose weight. Eating appropriately helps you to lose or maintain a good weight. It's the food that you eat that controls the weight you're going to be at. Exercise is great. Don't get me wrong. I would love you all to be exercising because it's going to help you be strong. It's going to help you to be flexible. Having muscle on your body helps you to live longer. Research has shown that. Having muscle on your body does not stop your body from adding layers of fat above it. And we see this. We see it all over the place. Physically strong people who have a layer of fat over them because they're still eating a bunch of carb. Calories in, calories out doesn't work because our body doesn't function on calories. It functions on hormones. So whatever you're eating, what tells your body how to manage the food are the hormones that get activated by the food that you eat. In order to engage a healthy weight loss process, the third thing that I want you thinking about is being active in your weight loss process. So the first idea I'm going to give you here is do your research. Do not take my word for it that a healthy ketogenic lifestyle is the thing that's going to help you to be healthy and to lose weight in a healthy way. Sure, I'm giving you a lot of good information right now, but I'm also saying to you very clearly, every single thing that I'm saying right now, you can go and verify yourself. You can look up this information. Be active in your weight loss process. Be active in your healthy goal for yourself to be healthy. Before I started a ketogenic lifestyle, I did a month and a half of research to make sure that what I was about to embark on was actually going to be healthy for me. Add to that, that I wasn't just trying to be thin. I had a hip issue that I wanted to solve without medication. I wanted to be sure. I want you to be sure. I also want you to have a baseline. What gets measured gets improved. So know where you're starting, right? How much food are you actually eating? Do a baseline. What do you weigh? Do a baseline. What's your waist measurements? Baseline. How do I feel when I wake up in the morning? Am I energized or am I exhausted? Baseline. Am I able to focus at work and think clearly? If I know where I'm starting with all these things, so I pay attention to that, as I move forward in this ketogenic lifestyle, I'm going to be able to check, is what I'm doing actually helping me? Next thing I want you to do is to have a plan. And part of your plan is understanding keto. What am I actually embarking on right now? What am I actually doing? Keto is eating 20 grams of carbs or less, keeping my protein at an appropriate level. Should have been there before I started keto. It should be the same number if I was eating appropriately. If it's not, bump it up to an appropriate level. And maintaining a healthy fat intake. What that means is at the very beginning of the process, I might have to add a little fat. But then once I'm into the process, I eat to satiation. I'm not overeating fat. If I'm trying to lose weight, overeating fat doesn't help me. I want you to understand your macros, right? Because if you're living a healthy ketogenic lifestyle, people keep talking about macros. Well, what does fat do in the body? What does carb do in the body? And what does protein do in the body? What hormones are going to be activated? How does insulin react to those? You need to know that information. Understand what artificial sweeteners and fat does to your success or lack thereof. People are unaware that if you continually add fat, as I said just a few seconds ago, it's going to affect my weight loss. However, they're also unaware that artificial sweeteners affect your weight loss. Artificial sweeteners tell your brain to produce insulin, which will affect your weight loss. The other thing I want you to do in order to be active in your process of doing a ketogenic lifestyle is to have the correct tools. So, what are the correct tools? You need a food scale so that you can weigh your food, because there's no way you're going to be able to guess how many carbs are in what. You need a body scale so you can weigh yourself, as I said earlier. You need a measuring tape so you can measure yourself, as I said earlier. You need an app for tracking food so that you can keep track of the food that you're eating and track every piece that you put in your mouth. And the most important tool that you will need to live a healthy ketogenic lifestyle, healthy food. You need to find vegetables, you need to find meat, and you need to find spices without sugar in them, that you love, that you can put on your food, and you can cook delicious meals that you will actually eat to live a healthy, happy lifestyle. Now, there are a few accessories, so extras, that you might want to help you to live this lifestyle. They're not necessary, but the reason I'm mentioning them is because I have them. And I do find that these things help me to stay on track because they solve some of the problems that people encounter when they're trying to live this lifestyle. And if you're going to be an active participant in your weight loss, in your healthy life, in your better health, you need to have a way to keep yourself on track. So these are the things that I think can be helpful. A gym membership or a home gym, like what I have. I wish I used mine more, but I have it. The gym is, again, towards that healthy muscle that I said earlier. Is it a necessity for weight loss? No. But will you feel better if you feel stronger? Yes. If I feel better, will that encourage me to keep going? Yes. Sleep monitoring. Again, knowing that you're sleeping enough, you're getting the end, and you're replenishing your energy. Does that help me? Of course, because if I'm less cranky, hungry, angry, so if I'm less cranky, HALT, remember, AA model? If I'm less cranky, I'm much more likely to eat appropriately. The crankier I am, the more that emotional eating will step in and I'm going to eat the wrong thing. So getting enough sleep is super important. For Violet, a slow cooker was extremely important. A pressure cooker, slow cooker, air fryer, and a blender. These things made cooking for me so much easier. Like the sleep tracker, which by the way, mine is looks like a normal watch, but it's actually a sleep tracker. This thing helped me to make sure that I wasn't in a bad mood unnecessarily. Those things help to save me time. So these things that I'm talking about, they're not necessary, but they sure did help me. The other thing, now this one I didn't have, but I still think it would have been good for me to have back then. Now I don't care, but a good cookbook. Why? Well, when I was eating standard American diet and I came to this diet, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to eat? I'm never going to be able to find enough things to eat. Fast forward to today, Violet doesn't care that much about food. So the 5 or 6 things that I used to eat on standard American diet, now it's like 3 or 4 things that I eat on this diet, but it doesn't matter to me because I never did care that much about food, although I was worried about it. Like I think everybody gets worried about, well, what am I going to eat? What am I going to eat? You find things to eat. But for those of you who are concerned, a good cookbook that caters to keto could be helpful. You might use it forever. You might use it just in the beginning. Just knowing that there are things you can make that you'll be able to eat that are going to taste good, knowing that you have some possible variety, I think can be helpful. I'm cautioning you, cookbook. I'm not talking about a baking book. I'm not talking about a pastry book. I'm talking about a cookbook. So this is parentheses. I know that a lot of people, biggest fear they have is giving up dessert. And you know what? If you're going to get a pastry book, if you're going to get a baking book, I can't stop you. Make sure it's a good quality, keto-friendly one. What I will tell you is that at the beginning, did I make some desserts? Sure, I did. I'm human. Do I make any desserts now? Not at all. I kind of wish that I had let that go earlier because I got a bunch of baking products in my cupboard that I don't use. That I'm going to throw them away, I'm pretty sure. Keto baking products are expensive. For you to eat things that you probably shouldn't be eating because there's artificial sweeteners in it. See the earlier one that I said earlier, which tells your body to pump out insulin. So do I think that these are things that are going to help you in the long run? No. But do I understand that we need sometimes these transitional items? Yes. So if you're going to do it, do it. If you don't need to do it, don't do it. It's so important for us to be honest with ourselves because we think that we need to eat dessert. We think that we've grown up on these ideas. But the thing I'm trying to help you to see right now is that if I keep myself in this bad idea that dessert is necessary, if I keep myself in this bad idea that I have to eat like everybody else, if I keep myself in these bad ideas, I will keep eating poorly. And if I keep eating poorly, I will keep living metabolic issues. I will stay at a heavier weight. All the things I listed are linked below: slow cooker, pressure cooker, all the versions that I find work really well for me. These videos on the screen are going to help you to manage your health better. Wellness Warriors, I'm always happy that you come back. I want to thank you for watching Mind Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet. Can't wait to talk to you guys again next week.